at 1,068,000. It was exciting in the fact that we were able to compute what the final score is going to be, because we kind of can predict you're either going to get 400 points on the final screen, the kill screen, or you're going to get 700 points, depending on if the barrel comes down or not. And the barrel chose not to come down in this situation, which we all computed would be a tie. And when it didn't come down and tied, we all freaked out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So with the new format, how would that have been settled? How would that tiebreaker? Would it have been like a one game? Would it have been one man?
Yeah,
how would that work?
Well, we all agreed that we were going to do a level 1 off, meaning 4 guys not leaving the first board and getting as many points as you can get is how we were going to break the tie. It would have been exciting. But like I had said, Jeff sits down and goes, well, maybe we don't need a tie. I'm going to play one more game, and walks up and then takes the lead.
That's awesome.
Just like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like the 1-1 challenge. We do that all the time, in between work for the convention. And it's nice because it forces you to play in a manner that you typically wouldn't, and take a lot of risks and take a lot of chances. And it's really anybody's game if you're just doing the 1-1 thing. So, that's a really good idea. I like that a lot.
It would have been exciting. I would have liked to have seen that, and it would have been a good element. I actually asked Billy and Steve if prior to this final match, as just an exhibition match, would he go head-to-head against Steve Wiebe in just like we're doing here, just for an exhibition match before the finals. And he was like, I'm too busy running the show. So I thought that would have been cool, but he said no. Lame.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
I'm taking a look right now at what's going on Hank's stream. It looks like he's trying to drag out this springboard for as long as possible. The competitors, we discussed this a bit before the games actually started, that whoever is behind in terms of boards actually has a slight advantage because they know how hard that they have to play to beat their opponent. So it looks like Hank is opting to do just that and dragging this board out as long as he possibly can. Well,
I was told that everyone agreed on a gentlemanly platform that would not be done.
But he was point pressing as he dragged it out, and that's why that's how he got around the gentleman agreement.
But I saw that he was jumping like crazy, but at points that there was not even an ability to get 100 points.
Well, sometimes you can get it from that spring, and sometimes you can't. It's just luck of the draw. These first 10 boards, as Billy mentioned in the pregame sort of ceremony we had, they tend to be the most random, most variable boards that you can have, and they will really make or break these finals for either Hank or Robbie. Hopefully they're able to get to level 5 safely on all of their men so they can sort of cruise to the end. I'd love to see 2 kill screens out of both of these players, but it's all going to be up to the randomness. It looks like Hank almost had the potential to get trapped on this rivet even. These are just the scariest boards in the entire game, and we grind them for hours and hours just for that reason.
I must say, Wes, you are quite the commentator.
I've heard that quite a bit today. I had a great time casting the Jeff and Robbie game. That was just a wonderful game. It was amazing to see. Jeff, I expect to see him just be a rock mentally and emotionally as he plays this game, and I could tell as Steve Wiltshire and I, we were watching him play, and he was on his last 2 men, and he was very obviously shaken. I mean, we saw a style out of him I've never seen before, where he was so safe and so conservative that even if he had kill screen playing that style, he would have lost.
When that was mentioned to him by Bill, he kind of denied it. He said, no, I was still on good pace.
No.
Yeah, I know, but we weren't going to argue.
But yeah, that's the only time I've ever seen him mentally kind of falter. This is a grudge match right now between Robbie and Hank, Robbie being the current world record holder, Hank being the former world record holder, Robbie taking it from Hank. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out. But as I mentioned before, it will all come down to these first 10 boards until both players reach level 5.
I want to comment on one thing. A lot of drama unfolded last night. Steve Wiltshire, great guy, family man. His kids and wife are all here to cheer him on. Actually, probably the only player that had his wife and kids here cheering him on. He was in the top 8, and Vincent gets knocked out of the top 8 by Ethan Daniels, who moves up to 7. And then Vince LeMay had one last game in him, and he had to beat Steve Wiltshire's score to get into the top 8. And poor Steve Wiltshire is sweating Vince has no men in reserve at like 700,000 or less, and he's got to take one man all the way to the $1 million plus to get back into the standings. So he was shaking the whole time, but the pressure was so just intense. The whole time he was shaking. You could see his arms are shaking, and it was quite amusing to watch him under pressure, not fold, not choke. But at the very same time, it was painful to see Steve in agony on every board, knowing that he was about to be bumped out into the 9th position, which brings home nothing. And it was hard for me. I was very conflicted because I love Vince and I love Steve. They're both great guys. But you know what? That's what it is in competition.
That's so heartbreaking. I read an article on that actually this morning on the Donkey blog, which I've been following the Kong Off 4 day to day, and one of the things that was written there was Steve had to hold back tears during Vince's game. You know, Steve actually had a game going, I believe, on day 1 of the competition that would have secured him the lead over the entire thing, and he just wasn't able to seal the deal. He had 2 spring deaths. It's one thing to be at home on your own arcade machine or even MAME practicing in your living room or the comfort of your den or something like that, but then to come to this convention center that's crowded and you're lined up with the world's best players of the game, and just being under that kind of pressure, thinking to yourself, you know, knowing that the people to my left and to my right are having games, you know, they're equally as skilled as I am or maybe even better, and they have games going too, and, you know, I have to put up something or I'm gone. That's just an incredible amount of pressure, and it's not something that's really easy to practice for.
Just like normal sports, you gotta perform under pressure.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, Vince LeMay really, really, really impressed me this weekend. Mm-hmm. Mike Rosbeck, 2 million-point kill screen games in one day, completely impressed me. Wes Copeland coming over here from the computer, the MAME emulator, and showing us that he can make the transition to arcade and taking the lead and being the #1 spot for most of the competition. Unbelievable. That impressed me. His commentating skills actually impressed me even more.
I do have some prior practice, but I really enjoy commentating this game. Speaking of which, just looking at this game going on, I'm seeing Hank Chien. He is at the level 3 rivet board. It looks like he's able to safely use the star pattern to clear this board. 4 fireballs are zoned out on the left. After he clears this rivet board, he will be entering level 4, which has 5 different screens. If he is able to safely navigate through level 4 and make it to level 5, he will be in cruise control against his competitor, Robbie Lakeman, the current world record holder.
Can we switch to see Robbie, what he's up to? Is that possible?
Yeah, we'll be going to Robbie in just a second now. We are switching cams to Robbie Lakeman. Robbie has actually not lost a single life yet in the bracket event. I think that's really interesting. One thing that I will be really interested by is what paces these 2 players are willing to play at. Robbie has demonstrated that he can play at a 1,000,000-point pace on a single man. He actually got a first man million during the 2nd day of the event, the only player in history to be able to perform such a feat. And Hank is acutely aware of that. It looks like Robbie is actually cruising much faster than Hank is during the start. He is already on the last screen of level 4, about to enter level 5. So that is a bit indicative that Hank is going to be playing a much more aggressive game than we've seen in his previous bracket matches. Hank, against me, played very safely. I believe against Dean he played very safely. But in this game, he knows what he's up against. He knows that he's up against Robbie Lakeman, the current world record holder, the player that took the world record from him. And so he knows that if he doesn't play at a high pace, that Robbie's going to crush him. That's just all there is to it. Robbie, going through this rivet board, he was only able to smash 1 fireball with the bottom hammer. It looks like he might risk being trapped. There's a freezer on the top right. He was able to zone out 1 in the bottom left. Both freezers are in the pocket on the right, so he will get this top hammer and be able to clear the board without too much trouble, hopefully, if he's able to get another smash. I'm really concerned that that fireball might rise and he doesn't get this smash. This is one way you could easily get trapped. It looks like he'll have no problem entering level 5. I'm sure Robbie is breathing a sigh of relief right now, knowing that he didn't die to any bad randomness in levels 1 through 4. It's so easy to get just ripped whenever you're going through those levels. It doesn't matter how good you are. There's always a possibility you can get killed.
Absolutely. Some excellent play from Robbie here.
Now, looking at Robbie's strategy, he is opting to take the bottom hammers. That means he is intending to play at a million-point pace. He will not be playing safe this game. He knows that he's up against a player such as Hank. Hank is such a high-caliber player. He can consistently kill screen the game at will if he chooses. So he will be point pressing this game, meaning he's not going to be playing these barrel boards safe. He is going to be going for a million-point pace.
Love you, baby.
Oh.
Robbie has just lost a life, the first life he's lost of the entire tournament. I'm sure he's very rattled right now. That would rattle anyone losing a life on the first board of level 5.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And that was actually a very simple mistake.
I saw that.
Yeah, you would die that way if your nerves got to you. He just did a panic grab. What that means is whenever the fireball comes up, he immediately grabbed the hammer. Usually Robbie waits for it. In fact, he chastises players that grab that hammer. I've known from experience.
Actually, Steve, if you want to take over for me. For what? You want to take over for me? All right, this is Richie Knuckles.
I think Steve Wiebe is about to sit down in place of Richie Knuckles.
Yeah, this is Richie. I'm going to go and periscope a little bit and enjoy the crowd. I'm going to have Steve Wiebe sit in for me and commentate. He's a big sports fan. I think he's going to do a great job. Sorry if I wasn't John Madden to Wes's Terry Bradshaw, but I tried my best. All right, this is Brian Gumble saying good night.
Thanks a lot, Richie.
All right, just give us a second as Steve Wiebe sits down here. Just to catch up on Robbie's game, Robbie just lost a man on the first board of level 5. That is usually indicative of a problem with nerves. I don't know if the final's rattling him or maybe if it's going up against Hank. Steve Wiebe has just sat down. Hey, Steve.
In the house. Hey, Wes. How's it going?
Oh, man, I'm just watching this game.
So, yeah,
Robbie,
what's happening? They both down a man, right?
Are they both down a man?
I see both of them have two, two in the reserve. Oh, that's only Robbie.
This
okay.
is only Robbie. We've only got
I was
Robbie
thinking
on
we
right
have
now.
both of them on the screens here.
Yeah, Robbie just died on the first screen of level 5.
Oh, really? On the barrels?
He did, and I'm afraid that his nerves might finally be getting to him. He hasn't lost a man in the bracket up until now.
Yeah, it's hard to go the whole. I mean, imagine going 3 games, played. What was his last game at? Into the 400,000s?
Yeah, it was close to 500,000,
Yeah, I mean,
and he finally.
Eventually, you're gonna be. It's hard to survive hundreds of boards over and over. So, where in the barrels did he get?
Right at the bottom. He just got trapped. Yeah.
Really, on a barrel board?
Yeah.
It was
trapped?
It was like
trapped.
a double barrel followed by a single, and he cleared the double and just, I don't know if he mistimed the jump or what, but
was he trying to get the hammer?
He had already taken the hammer. I think both players are taking the hammer, knowing. Actually, if we can go back to Hank for a second, I would like to see what his level 5 strategy is.
They're both doing double hammer strategy, right?
They're both doing. I want to make sure that Hank is doing that. I know that Hank earlier in the bracket had been playing safe. He played safe against me, and he played safe against Dean. Hank is still on level 4, and it looks like it will be around 115K
That's
start.
a good press.
There's no way that he's just playing this one safe.
Yeah, he's going for it.
Yeah. And that is very unlike his earlier games. His earlier games, it looks like he just wanted to get to this point before he finally belted it all out.
And just go for it?
Yeah. I mean, seeing that Robbie got a one-man million on the second day of the tournament, I believe.
Yeah, he knows he has to press.
Yeah, he knows that if he plays safe, even if he kill screens, he has no chance to win.
Yeah.
So he is forced to play a little bit out of his comfort zone in order to face Robbie Lakeman. It looks like he'll clear this rivet no problem. He's pressing on Kong's leg right now. This gets you about maybe an extra 600 points or so.
Yeah, if you go past the zeros, maybe 4 jumps. Is that what you go?
4 jumps, that's right, yeah. Do you do this a lot in your games?
Yeah, it's kind of tiring. Sometimes I get kind of sleepy. It kind of hypnotizes you.
Yeah, I can't tell you. 2 or 3 times I've been jumping past the zeros, and I just
lost track.
Yeah, I don't keep track rather, and I just get killed.
Oh, really? Time's out on you. So what's it like up there? Do you feel like the eyes are all on you, or are you kind of able to focus on your game, Wes?
Right now, like with my current scores?
No, with when you were in the first round of the tournament.
In the bracket. Yeah, it's very exhausting. I had 2 very silly deaths on level 5.
Did you feel more nerves?
Yeah, it was
versus
definitely
the high score from it. Yeah.
It was definitely a nerves problem, and I knew that going in I was going to have a lot of anxiety. I haven't really. I've been in a tournament environment where I've been under that kind of pressure before, but my nerves I was able to have time to let my nerves level out.
Yeah.
Whereas here, one credit, you didn't even get a warm up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I was finally able to get my nerves to level out eventually, but it was just too late. Hey, I'll see you later, Walter. All right, so I'm looking at what Hank is doing. I'm wondering if he's going to group the barrels, if he's willing to go that extreme, or if he's just going to only grab the bottom hammers.
Playing with fire a little bit on these. I don't know.
Yeah, this is kind of making me nervous because it's so easy for Kong to throw a wild barrel while he's doing that.
Yeah, he could lob that one, or he can't do the forward jump. Yeah.
Okay, so it's looking like Hank is. Whoa.
That was a perfect time to move.
Yeah, it looks
that
like
one usually never gets you unless you're jumping way late or too early.
What's interesting is that Hank got points off of it. A lot of players would not get points from that.
Yeah, I don't know if you do this, Wes, but every time I jump, I always move the lever.
Yeah, I
just
do.
out of habit.
I do out of habit. Yeah. You might as well, just in case one of those barrels falls.
Yeah.
You can get 100 points off of it if you move the joystick. So Hank is progressing through level 5. He still has all of his men. If we could just go back to Robbie Lakeman really quick. Robbie Lakeman is currently down a man. He lost his first man in the entire bracket event. This is the day after Robbie got a one-man million game. So he lost it on a barrel board. That is usually indicative of a nerves problem. Going against a player like Hank Chien, I can't blame him if he's a bit nervous.
Yeah, this is a good finals.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better matchup. This is a wonderful matchup, a grudge match we have here. Robbie Lakeman being the current world record holder. Hank Chien, the player he's playing against, is the former record holder.
Yeah.
Robbie took the record from. This would probably be that was really close.
That was a close one. Yeah. That's always a danger. The hammer expires as a fireball.
Yeah. A lot of players will actually keep their thumb on the joystick ready to jump over just in case it expires.
That's what I do. Some of the other I heard that will be a little bit to the right of the ladder.
Yeah.
And then have the hammer, so when they're expires, they'll be moving the joystick down.
Yes.
So they go down this ladder. I don't use that. I kind of am in the camp where I look to jump backwards.
Now this is really interesting. Robbie did not point press off of Kong's leg.
Was he just tired or something? Maybe he's fatigued. That could be fatigue issue.
I feel talking with Robbie over the last year, having a good judge of his character, I think what's going on is that he's suffering from anxiety. He wants to get through this game as quickly as possible, and little point press mechanics like that, I think he's opting to avoid just so he can get
just
through.
To move on.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Robbie is rattled. He's still opting to take the bottom hammer. Jeff Wilms did not do that. After Jeff died, he kind of freaked out a little bit.
Yeah, it's easy to do. This kind of gets you off your game.
Yeah, only having one credit to put up a game, man, that I can see how, and it happened to me. I mean, that causes a lot of anxiety.
He's doing a lot of, I kind of named it steer crazy right now. He's steering them all out of the way. So there's no danger of any
right. Yeah, he's dumping every single barrel before he gets all the way up. Now, for those who don't know, you can actually control the barrels on these boards. If you're walking towards a ladder that a barrel is rolling above, the barrel has a 75% chance of rolling down if you're walking towards it at the same time. And what Robbie's doing is he's trying to shake all the barrels away so he doesn't have to deal with them. But the price he pays for doing that is the barrels actually control the timer. So every single barrel he doesn't jump is 100 points lost off the bonus clock.
Exactly. So point press, if you were going for a world record, obviously you wouldn't be
you can't steer any of them barrels
Yeah, you're
away.
trying to hit everyone, combine them.
So we're on the Pie Factory here for Robbie Lakeman in level 6. He has a long way to go before this game is over. The game ends on the first screen of level 22. This is either the easiest screen, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you think? It's either the easiest or the hardest, I think.
It's the total random dark horse board on how well your game's going to go.
Right.
And in this situation, he could easily have had the fireball on the bottom, could have gone up, It looks like he's going to get out of this.
Nicely done. Looks like he has a
done.
good path on the left. That's great.
That was well played.
That was a total coin flip for those who are watching. That was a complete coin flip. It could have just as easily gone the other way.
I don't know why he's waiting so long he's worried about kicking up high, I guess.
I've seen him do that a lot. It's very strange. Yeah.
there's enough time to react unless if you're having doubts, I guess, and there's no pressure underneath you, I guess you can wait for one.
I think Robbie is safe for a little while until he gets to his rivet board. Can we go back to Hank really quick? I would like to see if he's still on all of his men, what his pace is like, how he's doing.
You guys ignore me. I'm just going to get some shots.
I'm very curious. Oh, my goodness. Hank is
Hank's
also down a man. Hank is also down a man. So both only have 3 lives left. There are no more lives rewarded for the remainder of the game.
Absolutely surprising.
And he's used the bottom hammer. I see it's gone.
Yeah. So both players are trying to play for million-point pace. They both know they can't play conservatively and win just because of how good their opponent is. But it doesn't look like they're willing to push much higher than that. I'm not seeing us enter the 1.1 range.
Of grouping the barrels,
yeah. So we're not seeing any extreme point pressing, but I think if both players get very close to a kill screen, they might see that, or we might see that rather, just to see them edge each other out.
So, Wes, is there a version of point pressing where you group but you don't go down and re-jump? Is that kind of an intermediate? Or is if you're going to group, you're going to go down and re-jump?
No, I will absolutely not re-jump if there's a fireball that's approaching.
If it's even 2 levels or 1 level behind
if it's
you?
1 level down,
one level behind it, don't re-jump.
I'm not going to re-jump.
Yeah, because it could come up at any time.
It could come up at any time, and it could trap you. It's totally random.
Yeah.
Looking at this rivet board, it's so hard to call these. Whenever they all go up, I mean, it's kind of a blessing in disguise because, like what we're seeing right now, he may only get 1 smash. 2 smashes is pretty
you're
good.
Feeling pretty good. And
yeah.
Especially if you have a frozen one that will likely stay frozen.
That's right.
But they have a way of being a nuisance anyways, right?
That's right. Yeah, I've still died after getting 2 smashes many, many times. It's so easy. Even all it takes is 2 to trap you.
Yeah. They come down on the same platform, which happens when they converge on you.
Doing a back jump into the hammer there, that's an impressive technique.
Get your distance away from the...
Right.
Yeah, he has this. Let's see if he point presses like you. Or this is Hank, so he probably will.
Hank probably will. I don't think Hank is feeling as much pressure because he's been in these situations before. This is Robbie's first time deep in a tournament like this, I think.
So I imagine as the Kong-offs progress and we do this format, there'll be more experience and we'll all have less nerves.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think you're right. We really haven't had anything like this. We haven't had a practice tournament online like this, so we don't really know the optimal strategy yet.
Yeah.
We've had theories proposed, but nobody's actually executed them yet. So it will be interesting to see what sort of optimal strategy emerges with this type of format in the future.
I know the one strategy discussed was stalling at the top of the barrels, but I don't know who brought that one up, but it was gentleman's agreement was not to employ that one.
Jeff Wilms actually was the person who came up with that idea. He posted something on the Donkey Kong forum saying, wow, if we ever in theory did have a bracket style competition, this is what I would do. And he mentioned, if you're behind, you're always ahead of your opponent. If you're behind in the boards, because you can see how they're doing and see how hard they're playing, and you know what you have to beat, so you know how hard you have to play. And he mentioned he would stand at the top of barrel boards and just run the timer out on every single one, and just on the springboards run the timer out. And I found that post on the Donkey Kong forum after I found out that this was going to be a bracket-style tournament. And so I went to my good friend Phil Trudeau, and I said, hey, Phil, what do you think of this? And I mentioned the strategy, and he's like, well, Dean told me he was going to do the exact same thing.
It wouldn't be very interesting to Kong, would it?
Those games would be about 4 hours long if they went all the way. So what happened was all of us top 8 players, we kind of behind the scenes agreed, we're not going to do this one strategy because it would be very boring to watch, and because all of our reputations are kind of on the line since this is being streamed.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I would imagine, too, though, there would be if you were to wait and your opponent really pressed hard and was killing it, it could intimidate you, and now you have to really press hard yourself and might throw your game off. That could backfire, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That strategy.
So it looks like Hank just had a free pass on level 6 Pie Factory.
That's always a good feeling.
That's a great feeling. Can we go back to Robbie Lakeman? I'm very curious how his level 6 rivet board went. Robbie is also down a man. He's only got 3 men left. If we could just go back to Robbie Lakeman, please. All right, we're going to Robbie.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we're going to Robbie now. Hank is on 3 men. I believe he's playing at a bit higher pace than Robbie, Robbie is ahead in the boards, so that's usually indicative of that. Yeah, Hank is playing at a much higher pace than Robbie Lakeman right now. So if both of these games were to end in a kill screen, Hank would have it. So I'm curious. Robbie must be aware of what's going on because he is actually able to see Hank's game right beside him. There's a huge monitor right next to him.
Yeah, he can turn it on, I guess, at any point.
That's right. So I'm curious to see. Usually we have the benchmark at kill screen pace to be, you want to get your first man to at least level 9, and then you're not playing from behind anymore. So maybe he'll start extreme point pressing techniques that he used to get his world record beginning at level 9. We would see those on the barrel boards if he decided to employ them.
It'd be nice to have a coach next to you to kind of give you advice, like you need to bump it up here and maybe get 57,000 level,
Yeah, someone doing the math.
Yeah, doing the math. It's kind of hard to do math and play Donkey Kong at the same time.
That's right. Now that was an interesting technique we just saw. A lot of players, whenever they grab that hammer on the Pie Factory, they'll do a jump to the left or the right. Robbie chose to do a straight jump to grab it, which can be kind of tricky if there are pies rolling nearby.
Yeah, I was contemplating that. It does take away the fact you might jump into the fireball, right?
That's right. If it decides to go right after it comes down, you can jump right into it.
So that is a way. And he skipped the umbrella. I noticed that might just to get near the board, not risk 800 points.
I really feel like Robbie is rattled by losing a man.
He hasn't lost a man in a while, has he?
It was
and the way he lost it.
The way he lost it on level 5 was such a beginner mistake. That I'm really concerned about his nerves right now. I think he just wants to finish the game as quickly as he possibly can so he doesn't have to feel this way anymore. I really feel like that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, because there's a long road ahead. If you have to go to the kill screen, we're still a long ways to go.
We're about 2 hours out.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those who don't know, he could get trapped here.
I don't know where the nice play.
Yeah, he still has to rush, though. That fireball is going to be such an aggressive fireball.
It likes to go up and up and up, yeah.
I was almost afraid it would go over that broken ladder on the right, which he'd be able to smash it if it did.
Yeah.
Oh, those
ones just keep going up are tough.
Yeah, that's really tough. And there's really nothing you can do. You just have to try to avoid them as long as possible. But the longer you stay on these boards, the more and more fireballs emerge. So eventually, there's just nothing you can do. You just die. So Robbie, that probably rattled him even more.
Yeah, the one, I don't know if you can kind of foresee the hammer disappearing. You maybe can start steering barrels in a favorable way to leave a path so you can get free of the fireball. Do you ever do that, Wes?
I do. Yeah, I do that quite a bit.
Sacrifice. You might not hit all the barrels you'd want, but you're going to make a way to get out of that situation.
And that you mentioned sacrifice. Robbie actually, because him and we talk strategy quite a bit. One of his strategies is if he doesn't see a way out, and if the fireball, sometimes it will just go all the way up to the top and you can only pray.
Yeah,
he will deliberately sacrifice a man for points.
To get the points, yeah.
Not even think about it. He'll just do it.
Because you got to die eventually 3 times anyways. So.
Right. It looks like Lakeman is having some problem with the springboard.
Sometimes the springs, once they get going and you have to retreat so much, you kind of get a little dizzy.
Sometimes your eyes play tricks on you because you think surely it can't be this many bad springs in a row.
So sometimes you might want to maybe turn away after you've had that many retreats and just shake your eyes away.
Yeah.
And just turn back to the screen after you've had all those retreats.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Steve. Still playing at million-point pace, Robbie Lakeman. He's down a man. He knows that he has to play at million-point pace to beat Hank in a kill screen game. Hank is playing at much higher pace right now than Robbie Lakeman. In theory, right now, if both games ended at a kill screen at this pace, Hank would be the victor. Both players are down 1 man, so they only have 3 men the remainder of the game. No more lives are awarded at this point. Robbie is being very cautious. He lost his first life to a beginner mistake, in my personal opinion. It was the first life he's actually lost in the bracket event. So we're seeing sort of not so solid mechanics, or at least relatively speaking, they're not as solid as they were in his first 2 bracket matches. He has some timidness in his style right now, I think.
You definitely, when you don't feel comfortable playing the game, you can definitely feel the difference when you're in a groove and when you're kind of on the edge.
Right. So Robbie's going to be going into the level 7 rivet board. This is another do or die board. This board can either go great or go terrible. It's just how the randomness gives it to you. Robbie loves the star pattern. which is the order in which you pick up the rivets on the left side of the screen. Notice he'll skip this rivet because he wants to get that hammer in the middle there. So he'll grab those top two, and then he can use that hammer and smash his way through the middle. That lets him use both hammers in the board rather than only being able to use the top hammer. So as he kills these fireballs, for those who don't know, they'll respawn on the left side of the screen, and because all the rivets have been picked up, they're zoned out. They're not a threat to him anymore. Now the biggest thing is just getting this middle hammer, which he's able to do, and clearing the rest of the screen.
Yeah, he's got that bottom fireball. If he gets this next fireball, he's safe. Yeah, he should be fine. Unless they spawn on the bottom and start. That guy on the very bottom could start.
It could be a trap.
Yeah, you know, if he goes in the right direction, but he should have.
I think he's got. Well.
When you say that, you never know.
Yeah, you never know. This board gives me so many problems. How about you?
That's the one where I died 4 times on one of the games I played on the all in the rivets. Most of the players now are getting deaths on the pies and rivets.
That's right.
The springs, shouldn't die unless you're careless or fatigued, and then the barrels you pretty much have that dialed in.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and we talked about this earlier, and that was one of the things that really stuck out to me. Is really, in theory, you should really only die on a barrel board if you're fatigued. You really should never die due to bad mechanics or lack of skill or something.
A fireball that just happens to.
Yeah.
You're talking about the springs, right?
I'm talking about the barrels.
The barrels, this board here, yeah.
Yeah.
The only time, if you're fatigued, make a bad decision, or the fireball and your point pressing, happens to come up in an inopportune time, like you've had it where it expires the hammer.
That's
and then
right. That's right. We may see some safety grouping here. Oh, a back jump in his group right there. That'll give him 300. He's not going to re-jump, so he's probably still a bit uncomfortable. I noticed him throw every single barrel away as he climbed up, so that's some points lost, which may come back to bite him because Hank is playing at a bit higher pace. Speaking of Hank, can we go back to Hank's cam right now? I'd like to see how he's doing, if he still has 3 men left. Whenever we last saw Hank, he was ahead in pace. He had 3 guys. He's a bit behind in boards because he's ahead in pace. So Robbie can see that. Robbie is much further in his game. All right, Hank is at the level 7 springboard right now. Well, he's being super aggressive.
Did he go right over and back up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I find that the spring coming after a short, when you go over to get to the gold part, the following spring seems to be a lot of times a short one. So if you do try to just go up and it looks like you're in the clear, you might as well just keep going.
Yeah, it's a good point. Whoa.
It's worth looking at going, and if you have to retreat, it's not a big loss.
Now, this is really interesting from Hank. Hank did not grab the bottom hammer on this barrel board.
Maybe
he sees how much farther. Yeah, maybe he sees how much farther ahead he is over Robbie, because they can both see each other's games clear as day right now, and he realizes, wow, what's the point in playing risky like this? I don't have to do this anymore. Robbie is rattled. He may even be able to see that. So he's just playing these as safe as he can.
He might even alternate. Maybe every other board he'll do the bottom hammer. I don't know.
That would be really interesting to see.
So why do they call it the star pattern? Is there a star that? Is there a reason? I know that's the only pattern I ever learned.
I think it used to be called the jukebox or the juice box pattern or something. I don't know why it's called the star. I've never actually questioned it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because I don't see any star. Like if the rivets don't make a star. That But
I'm not sure.
I guess you're a star if you use it.
You're a star if you use it and clear the board. Now some players they hate the star pattern. Ross Benzinger is one that comes to mind.
What does he use?
He uses the weave, where he clears all 4 and doesn't even grab the bottom hammer on the rivet board. And he swears by the weave. It's really interesting, because he's right under Robbie in world standings. Whereas Robbie, whenever he uses the weave, he says he hates the weave.
I guess it's just a matter of your style that you like to play with.
Right.
Because you're going to be dealing with potentially 5 fireballs with the weave, right?
Right.
I mean, they're all on the screen and in hazards.
Now this spot could be really tricky right here. There's a freezer in the top right that could be problematic. We really need to see another smash right here. This could still be tricky. It's so easy to get trapped if they don't cooperate.
Yeah, they went all the way away. That's good.
Looks like Hank got a lucky break. So what were you going to say?
They're basically both finished level 7. Do you remember what Robbie's score was at the end of 7?
It wasn't this high.
Wasn't at 270? Okay.
It wasn't this high. So going into level 8, I'm trying to calculate Hank's pace in my head. It's hard to do math and commentate at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see, that he is not grabbing any bottom hammers at this point. So what we could have, this is a weird situation. What could happen is Hank was way ahead in scoring pace earlier in the game, but now he's falling way behind. At this rate, Robbie is going to be getting about 6,000 more points per level, which is a huge disproportional value.
So he can get maybe 50,000 a level with this technique, and
I think it's closer to 48,000.
48,
yeah,
and then 54 for bottom hammer.
That's right, yeah. But at any moment, like we mentioned earlier, any of these players, both of these players are capable of whipping out just extreme point pressing techniques. I've seen both of these players get 60,000 per level. I've seen Robbie get almost 70,000 in a single level. It's just a matter of that. That is such a high scoring rate to play at. You have to take such extreme risk. You have to, just the barrel control you have to have is insane. The multitasking required to play at that pace is insane. But they're both capable of doing it.
Yeah, if need be, they got that in their bag.
Right. And it looks
There's
like
a good walk right there.
Yeah,
or
Hank,
freebie or whatever you call it.
Yeah, weebie freebie.
Weebie freebie, yeah.
So I'm curious if Hank is going to continue playing these very safely, very conservatively. It looks like he is. So that will greatly shorten the length of time it will take Hank to reach the kill screen. I mean, if you play it super fast, you can reach it in like an hour and a half, hour 50 minutes.
But I do notice he's, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
He is not steering the barrels as he's moving his way up. He's trying to jump a majority of them.
Now this is interesting. He's grouping a bit here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if Hank feels more comfortable grouping than he does the bottom hammer.
Yeah, and then not go down and re-jumping. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Is there a technique where all you do is group at the top and never re-jump?
Ross Bensinger actually won a tournament playing that way, one of the online opens. I believe he finished a game just shy of $1 million. I think it was around 970K just by not grabbing the bottom hammer.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever had a 1 million point game where the bottom hammer hasn't been grabbed.
Yeah.
Just ignore it, Wes. I'm just capturing you guys doing your thing.
All right, so just to recap, Robbie and Hank are both down a man. They both have 3 men remaining. Hank is running into the level 8 springboard. And Hank he was playing ultra aggressive, but we've gone into more of a conservative, safe style of play that is representative almost of a first-time kill screener. Hank has played up in the bracket up until now, just very safely. It looks like Ethan Daniels is sitting down right now. He's going to co-cast this finals match with me. Again, for those just tuning in, the finals right now is Robbie Lakeman, the current arcade world record holder for Donkey Kong, versus Hank Chien, the former arcade world record holder for Donkey Kong and the player that Robbie took the record from. So this is, without a doubt, a grudge match going on right now. Hank definitely wants to prove himself. It looks like he is opting to grab the bottom hammers again after just running boards, so he knows he has to increase his pace. Both players are going for 1 million point games right now. Ethan, how are you doing?
I am doing well, Wes. Thank you for having me here with you.
I am so happy to have you co-cast this exciting finals with me. What do you think of these two players? What do you think of this matchup? How do you feel about how things are going so far?
Well, just going by the names of the players, you really couldn't ask for much more memorable of a stream setup. I mean, we've got the former world record holder who was able to jump his own score 2 or 3 times, which speaks volumes of his dedication to the game, going up against another current world record holder who's also jumped his own world record score numerous times. So basically, this is the pinnacle of Donkey Kong dedication and self-control.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, both of these players, whenever Hank had the record, he had it for years. Hank had the world record for years, and he was known for upping his own score. I don't know how many times he upped it. What was it? Do you know?
I believe it was at least 3.
Yeah, and now Robbie has upped his world record score twice. Robbie taking the record from Hank. So this is just, I couldn't have asked for a more fantastic finals matchup. So we're entering, it looks like the level 8 rivet board for Hank's game. This screen is just a do or die screen. It looks like he's using the star pattern, which will allow him to use both hammers. But the fireballs, it seems, hopefully he'll get more than 1 smash. You really need to get 2 smashes with that bottom hammer on this board. So this is a tricky situation for Hank. What are your thoughts, Ethan?
Well, I used to preferentially go down and try and take care of that bottom rivet first, but something I've learned from watching Robbie play over the last few years is that if he has an opportunity to get up and get right to the next hammer, he'll go, because even if you can smash half of them, you're going to end up more likely to finish the screen.
Right. So we'll see how Hank does on this screen. I think he's got a clear path to finish it now that those 2 fireballs decided to go bottom right. Every smash here is going to be great because now that both players are playing at a varied pace, we don't really know if both games go to a kill screen, who will win. I have no idea. Hank, he was playing at a very high pace early on in this game. Then he toned it way down and played like a first-time kill screen player. And now it looks like he's ramping it back up again. So Hank is point pressing. He will clear this board. Can we go back to Robbie Lakeman and see how his game is doing, please?
And it really speaks volumes for the skill sets of these players, because not only can they play at arcade world record pace, but they can play at 1,050,000 pace, they can play at 1,000,000 pace, they can run the boards. And the beauty of that is that based on the way your opponent is playing, you have the ability to catch back up. Or if you're to the front, you can slow your play down, which is great for your psyche. It's not something that's incredibly apparent, and I mean, there's really no way to get inside the players' heads here, but there's a whole world of psyche associated with Donkey Kong, and it can be dependent on screen randomness, it can be dependent on 5 or 6 long springs in a row that slow you down. It's a very, very fickle line. I like to think of this game as like walking a tightrope.
I think that's a great point, and that's why it's so surprising that that Jeff Wilms had such a hard time in his second bracket match. You know, Jeff is mentally, whenever he goes into these games, it's almost like he's invincible. Nothing gets him upset. Nothing jilts him at all. And then he was visibly rattled, running boards against his opponent. I mean, it was very interesting to see. I've never seen Jeff play like that in a tournament atmosphere before.
Well, Jeff is generally cold as ice, but for what it's worth, we're used to seeing him play cold as ice at 1,060,000 to 1.1 million pace.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and a lot of commitment to become comfortable with the different ways to progress through the game. So it almost sounds funny to say it, but there's a chance that he's not as comfortable playing at a lower pace as some of the other contenders would be. And in a high score format, that is fine. He's got all weekend to go and play big, big, big.
Yeah.
But now when it's one and done bracket, that again has large implications on your psyche.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, and it is entirely possible, that Jeff may not have been that comfortable playing at that kind of a conservative level, and that might have cost him. I was definitely expecting the finals matchup to be between Dean Saglio and Jeff Wilms, just with how the bracket was drawn. But this is also a fantastic matchup. For those just tuning in, the matchup right now, this is the finals of Kong Off 4. We have Robbie Lakeman, the current arcade world record holder, against Hank Chien, the former arcade world record holder and the player that Robbie took the record and title from. Robbie has just now entered the level 9 rivet board. This may be a tricky rivet. Oh, looks like he will be able to grab that hammer. Robbie always using the star pattern. He hates alternative patterns, so he has experimented with them. He always falls back to his trusted star. He really needed to smash more than one fireball of that hammer, but he was able to grab the top hammer, so this is still going to be okay. But usually, if you're not able to get at least 2 in that situation, that can lead to some pretty scary traps that the fireballs can set up, and it can be really uncomfortable, especially in a situation like this where you only have 1 credit to play. Now, hopefully, he's able to get around this fireball down here.
Absolutely. And again, the logic of going up first to take the top hammer before trying to go down where he is now and clear these bottom rivets is that the longer you give the fireballs time to move, the more entropy sets in, and the more likely they are to climb down, climb around, and trap you in the corner.
Alrighty here. So Robbie going forward here. Starting level 10 with, looks like 297,000. Pretty quick pace there.
All right, so it looks like Robbie's playing a rather safe bottom hammer strategy, and the logic here is that you basically linger over by the hammer and wait for a fair number of barrels to come up onto the screen so that you can smash preferentially 9+ objects with your hammer. But in a tournament setting like this, as soon as the fireball gives you any bit of mental stress, it can be in your best interest to just grab the hammer and get out of there. So if you were watching, for example, world record play or a world record pace attempt, you would see that basically caution is thrown to the wind with regard to the fireball, and if they would climb up the broken ladder off the bottom girder, you just let them go, and you wait until you've got a significant barrel set up to try and get as many points as you can with the bottom hammer. You're basically playing the odds at that point. So there's a major strategic difference here in that we're not playing the odds to look for statistical outliers, they're playing the odds for survival.
So we have somebody else joining us here in the booth. We have Derek Sorrells joining us here. Welcome. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to your insight on this final match here in the Kong Off 4.
It's interesting to note that with Hank down an additional man over Robbie, it's going to be interesting to see how Hank plays, if he's going to play it a little bit safer or he's going to continue to press for additional points, given that he still has to win point-wise, Robbie does, if he's going to win, given that the fact that Hank has already lost that additional man. So it'll be interesting to see how that proceeds throughout the game.
That's something that's been a common topic of discussion throughout the entire finals rounds today is how people will manage that stress moving forward after they've lost that life. Are they going to crank it up and try to go all in, or are they going to back off a little bit and not make as many risky decisions and try to keep themselves out of trouble? So it's a very good point. It'll be interesting to see which direction we go.
And given in the last couple of days we had a couple of guys separated by only 100 points, it may be a purse or a telephone that someone misses that actually might be the difference between a win and a loss.
Oh boy.
Alrighty.
All right, now's when it's going to get interesting. Well, it's already been pretty interesting, but this is where your stress really starts to kick in. Your number of jump men in reserve goes down, and then not everybody plays this way. A lot of this stuff is personal opinions that I'm giving you guys here, but I know that you can have a big old bag of confidence going, and seeing one less jump man sprite up there in the corner changes everything. You can feel like you're on top of the world, and then after one death, you have no self-confidence. And the worst thing you can do is start timidly attacking the screens, because the more timid you play, the more likely you are to succumb to the evil monkey known as Donkey Kong.
After the springboard and the pie board, would you say this is the one that Hank just finished is the most challenging, with the rivet board being the easiest?
I would absolutely agree with that, Derek. So a few of us were talking about this earlier, how we consider the accessory screens to be the non-barrel board screens, because every level after level 5 has 3 barrel boards and then 1 each of the other screens. So at the end of a game, all 117 screens up to the kill screen, you will have seen 56 barrel boards, or as opposed to like all these other ones, you only see them 20 or 21 times. But the funny thing about that is that we spend so much of our time on the barrel boards, point pressing and gathering the majority of these extra points that we're scraping out of the game, that we're familiarized with so many more of the rare case situations that can happen on the barrel boards. But even still, even knowing thousands of different potential scenarios, they're still very challenging. And situations will arise after you've been playing for years that you've never seen before.
Yeah, Hank's having some fireball issues here on this particular board.
Yeah, Hank's definitely dealing with a spot that is not a fun place to be.
Ooh.
Nice,
very
clear.
Close.
So the problem with
Very
that right
nice.
island over there is that if you're standing over there, you can get trapped, because if a fireball comes down the ladder and there's another guy in the middle, there's nowhere for you to go, and you're at the mercy of RNG. So I don't know if you guys have noticed now, but Hank has switched away from grabbing the bottom hammers. And as you can see just now, he's already encountering a lot of strange barrel spacings that otherwise would have been avoided had he been smashing all that stuff and preparing himself a nice, easy ascent up to the top. Basically, we take the bottom hammer, we try and get as much off the screen as we possibly can, so that as soon as the hammer runs out, we can make our way up top. And at that point, you'll either point press or go right to the top hammer.
Is there a particular reason you think Hank is choosing this strategy over using the bottom hammer?
Well, I have a feeling he realizes that he's still a few points to the front. And a logic that I was applying in my game against Robbie was that it's okay to be one man behind if you're more points ahead than that person could get by cashing in that extra man. So if you get all the way to the end of the game with extra men, when we get to the last barrel board, which is the second to last complete screen that you can play before the kill screen, you will spend your extra men there because you can get potentially 13 to 15,000 per extra jump man, whereas if you would take them to the kill screen, the most you can get is 800 points apiece. So if, for example, if your average sacked man is worth 13,000, if Hank knows that he's more than 13,000 points ahead of Robbie, then he doesn't have to worry about being one man behind. So essentially I'm thinking that he switched over to this skip the bottom hammer strategy because he knows he has enough of a scoring buffer at this point that he can reduce the risk required to play through the screen and still stay competitive. Sometimes you do it because your psyche gets hit after a couple bad deaths and you just want to make sure you don't die again. Sometimes you do it just for scoring. In this case, I think it's probably to make sure that he can survive. Survival is key in stuff like this, because even though we're talking about the best players in the world, there's a lot of cruel randomness, and there's almost, I'd say, a 50% chance that the best players in the world won't finish a game. And it's not due to mistakes, it's just due to unsurvivable situations that come up with various barrel combinations and fireballs climbing.
Yeah, that's what got Vince earlier in his first round. He got trapped there on the Pie Factory board twice in the same spot too. The fireballs came out of the gate right towards the bottom, and he just couldn't find a way out of there.
Yeah, and again, the beauty of this game is that you can see 15 Pie Factories over the course of a game, and sometimes you'll have a game where you get 15 cooperative Pie Factories in a row, where they just let you run up the ladder, run up the right, and finish the screen. And then some games you'll play every single Pie Factory. As soon as they all spawn, they come right down and they trap you in the bottom. You never know what you're going to get. It's literally like opening a can of worms every time the screen changes. And that also has major implications on your psyche, like if you just dealt with 5 atrocious Pie Factories, the next time you get to a Pie Factory, your heart rate's going to go up. You're going to be scared. You're going to start playing it timid, and that changes the way you play.
So I noticed that the bottom prize here is rarely taken, even when there seems to be plenty of extra time on the clock. Is there a particular reason that that's a choice of most players to leave that particular prize on the rivet screen?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, Derek. So early on, in the early levels, like 1, 2, and 3, and actually even level 4, you have enough time to sneak over there and grab it in between when the fireballs spawn. So basically a fireball will spawn, and you have a certain number of seconds until the next one spawns. And in that time, you can run over, grab the prize, get back to the left side, and not put yourself at a disadvantage based on where... See, the fireballs spawn dependent on where you are on the screen. If you're on the left, they spawn on the right. If you're on the right, they spawn on the left. So basically, level 5, if you would run straight across the bottom girder and try and get that purse, you're going to end up splitting your fireballs. So you're going to have some of them on the left and some of them on the right. And for us, the strategy is to try and get them all to spawn right, clear the left side, and then start smashing them, and then clear the right side. So most people will avoid that prize altogether because it's only 800 points, and the assumed risk is that fireballs are going to be everywhere. Now, Dean, on the other hand, who I'm actually going to be just in a minute here, I'm going to hand over this headset to Dean, and you'll get some expert commentary from the undisputed high score champion of this game. But Dean always goes for that purse, just as a matter of scoring. Like, he needs those points to be able to reach the high scores that he's attempting to reach. There's tons and tons of risk-reward analysis in this game on a large, like on a macroscopic scale and on a microscopic scale. Like, we're talking every screen, there's decision making. We're talking every level, long-term scoring averages, generalized playing strategies. There's so much depth, and that's the beauty of this game, is that it looks so incredibly simple, and there's just so much unspoken mastery that you will never know from watching. You could watch the replay of the highest score ever and not understand half of the stuff that's going on subliminally. Like, directional inputs that you don't see, or pauses, or waiting, or just all kinds of, if this guy goes right and that barrel goes left, there's a great chance that I'm going to be in a death spot. And you'll just see them stand still and nothing will happen, and the situation doesn't arise. And to the, a normal viewer, it just seemed like, okay, but
I think we saw that this week when we saw a rivet board with 7 fireballs crushed with a hammer, something you don't typically see very often.
Exactly. And there's strategies, again, for scoring there. So in general, a lot of players, once they take the bottom hammer on the rivet, they want to spawn as many of them on the left side as they can. And then ideally, you make your way up to the top hammer, you take out the last few that are there, and then you can finish the screen. But when you're going for maximum scoring, guys will take the top hammer on the rivet, and they'll go over to the left side and just start recklessly smashing fireballs. The risk there is that they could spawn on the right and climb up top and leave you in an impassable situation. But it's a calculated risk that players have to take to try and increase their scoring average throughout the game.
And as you previously mentioned, the reason Robbie's going to stay over on the left is to hope that more fireballs spawn on the right side while he's on the left, clearing that side of the board.
Correct. And the fireballs, they have a tendency to go to the right and up. And now I don't mean like 75%, right or up. It's something more like 55-45. But in general, over time, they tend to gravitate to the right and to the top. So the logic is, do the left side early because they're more likely to be moving to the right in general. It doesn't work that way. There's plenty of times where you just get trapped on the left and the fireballs don't give you any room. But ideally, you try and lead them to spawn on the right. You try and get those top left rivets as fast as you can, and then make sure you're in a position to be able to deal with all the guys that are going to be up top on the right. All right, so it looks like Robbie just finished level 11 okay, so for those that are watching that want to have a relative idea of scoring rates, this right here is the start of level 12. At the end of the next screen, this is 12-1, the next screen would be 12-2. At the end of 12-2, we're exactly at the halfway point through the game. So players will estimate their scoring average, which is what we call pace, based on, we have calculations that we know at the end of every level, your relative scoring average, but at the end of 12-2, you're at the exact halfway point of the game. So that should give you a realistic idea of what the end game score would be. So like right now, it looks like Robbie's at
Looks like about 461,000.
461,000. So he'll probably finish the screen around 470. He'll probably finish the next screen around 478. So you would double that score, and then assuming he carries those 2 extra men all the way to the end, you might add another 25,000 for those 2. So essentially he's on right under 1 million pace right now. Somewhere around, like 950 without the deaths, and then up to 25 from the deaths. So right around 970.
Certainly not pressing it for points, but not doing too bad at all.
Right, and the main logic with that is that it's significantly easier to survive. It's scaling difficulty, right? Like the likelihood of completing a game at a lower pace is exponentially greater than the likelihood of completing a game at a slightly higher pace.
And because he's not point pressing just because he's not trying to get the world record here. He's trying to get the highest possible score and survive as long as possible as well.
Right. You don't need to beat the rest of the world. You just need to beat the guy that's sitting right next to you right now on this one coin.
And that's exactly what Hank's thinking as well.
Yeah, it's really a wonderful format, to be honest with you. All right, so that was a fairly uneventful Pie Factory, and if you can get Pie Factories like that, you're feeling good in life.
I don't think Robbie's upset with that win at all.
Yeah, you mentioned 478,000 is where you thought he would be, and he's at 477,100 starting 12-3. So he's very much right about where you thought he was going to be.
Right around 950, which is still a wonderful scoring average. Like a 950 would essentially put, I don't know the numbers anymore, but I think a 950 would probably put you somewhere inside the top 30 all time. So, it's all relative. Like you see these, and we're talking about playing down and lower scoring averages, but it's all relative. All right, so at the end of this screen, I'm going to hand off my microphone to Dean Saglio. Man, Robbie is such a consistent player. It's just amazing to think that here we are in the third game, of the finals of the Kong Off on a stage in front of an audience, stress out the wazoo, and he's only died once in 3 games. He's
Very
basically
smooth.
got 1.2 million points and only died once, right? He went 400K in his first game, he went 400K in his second game, and now here we are at 480K, and he's only died once.
He's been extremely consistent the entire weekend. It's been fun watching him play.
Over 1 million points on one man earlier, so
Yeah.
so it's amazing just to watch him continue this.
And yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Derek. So this weekend, Robbie did something that no one's ever done in 30 years, ever. There's been people that have come close, and it's just never happened. The elusive first man million, which means you get 1 million points on your first man. Not only did Robbie get a first man million, but he made it all the way to 21.5, which is the last playable barrel board on his first man. So he was able to cash in 3 extra men.
So basically, when he did die, it was on purpose. It wasn't that the barrels took him. He decided to die so he could sacrifice those 3 additional lives for extra points.
Exactly, and he did very well with those sacrifices. I think the first one he might have only got 7,000 or 8,000, but the next 2 after that were like 13 and 14K. So essentially, he ended up with, well, let's see, 13, 14, 27, and then another 6. He ended up with like 33,000 points in death points that he was able to add just by playing safe. That's another valid strategy. Play at a slightly lower pace with the intent not to die, and then cash in and make up an extra 30,000 at the end of the game that you would have had to slowly earn the entire way through, playing at a riskier scoring style. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and hand off my spot on the microphone to the wondrous Dean Saglio. Hopefully he can give the viewers some good insight.
All right, thank you very much for coming on with us. That was Ethan Daniels. He will be stepping out, and then, as he mentioned, we'll be having Dean Saglio coming in. So Robbie getting ready to finish here.
Yeah, finishing off 12-3 as he continues on.
Blistering pace.
What's up?
It's a condenser mic, just make sure you're close to the
Okay, and this is just to hear.
Yep, it's just a All right, and with us now is Dean Saglio. How are you doing today, Dean?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm still a little disappointed that I bombed out in my semifinal match, but I'm starting to recover from that now and
That's
enjoying
good.
the final.
Rightfully so. So we're looking forward to some of your expert commentary on this final match here.
Sounds great.
So-
Who are we looking at now? This looks like Hank on an elevator board, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Great thing about having Dean with us, he is the highest scoring Donkey Kong player. What is it, Dean? 1.2?
On the computer, I have 1,206,800 or something like that.
That is
So.
beyond impressive.
Yeah, you know, it's a little different when you can play the game over and over, 100 times, and you're hoping for that one good game, rather than what these guys are going through, which is to drop 1 quarter, and that's the only chance you have. So, in this situation, they're really trying to balance how much risk they're taking, with the fact that if they make a mistake and die, that's the only chance they have for their tournament life here. So that's why the potential score here will not be as high as a world record score, but it's still impressive that they can do this on demand on 1 quarter.
So going into, let's see, he's on this is the second to last barrel board here in level 12?
Yeah, it looks like he'll be on the rivet stage next. Yeah, so the end of the Pie Factory stage on this board here, on this level 12, the end of the Pie Factory stage, which was, I guess, 2 screens previous, that marks the halfway point in the game. So you can kind of extrapolate that he's on pace for just under 1 million points if he were to finish the game here, which is, it's pretty impressive on a 1 quarter drop. Just like whatever
absolutely.
happens, to be able to maintain 1 million points is pretty solid for sure. So he's got a pretty good setup here, because anytime you can get a couple of fireballs trapped on the left side. Now, of course, he's got that bottom rivet to worry about. So what he's hoping for now is that this one on the left side goes up. Of course, it didn't, but what he wants to do now is wait and see what happens.
So what we typically see in this place, Dean, is they take the lower hammer first.
Yeah.
Is it interesting to you that that Hank decided to take the upper hammer
Yeah,
first?
on this one I think he was probably forced away from that bottom hammer, and so what he's hoping for now is an opportunity to unplug this last rivet. And he's got to watch the timer now here, because it may be better to get that one last, which is what he's decided to do now, is to get the other ones first. And that may mess up all what's going on with these other fireballs. It's pretty... Yeah, he's only got less than 1,000 now on the timer, so he's going to look for an aggressive opportunity now, which it looks like he just got it. So. Yeah.
Sometimes luck is on your side.
Yeah. One of the things on the rivet screen actually that's the most challenging actually is the timer. A lot of good players would survive more often if they didn't run out of time. So it's just like an added stressful element to that screen.
So, Dean, for those that aren't paying attention typically to the timer between the boards, is the timer the same on all the boards, or does it vary?
It actually works slightly differently on the barrel boards. They all start at 8,000 from here on out, but on the barrel boards, the timer ticks down based on when the barrels are released. So there's a 1-for-1 advantage. So like every time you jump over a barrel, you're basically like keeping pace with the bonus timer, because you lose 100 bonus points when he releases a barrel, but you make up for it when you jump over the barrel. So depending on the pattern of how he releases the barrels, the bonus timer actually can sort of vary slightly on how fast it's ticking down, whereas on the other screens it's a constant timer that ticks down just based on whatever timing it's set for.
Well, Hank just did finish the girder board. I think one thing that's interesting that some of the viewers may not notice is that when there's 3 barrels, while it says 800, isn't it true that you only get 500 points?
Yeah, if you actually watch the score closely while it's happening, you'll see that only 500 points gets added to the score. So that's one of those interesting, early 80s kind of software glitches that just never was caught in testing, and it was released that way. So it's an accident, but all the top players are aware, of course, that's what they're getting, so they factor that into their decisions accordingly. And so it looks like Hank has decided at this point, with being on his third man, to switch over to a one-hammer only strategy on the barrels, just to take a little more risk away from his overall strategy. He wants to extend the game as long as possible now and hope that Robbie has some difficulty. I can't quite tell from like a side, like which screen Robbie's on compared to Hank, and whether or not Hank is still ahead on pace. But if Robbie continues 2-hammer and Hank continues 1-hammer, then Robbie will eventually catch up to him pace-wise.
We're going to change over and see how Robbie's doing right now.
That sounds great. But like I said, that's the aspect of head-to-head here, that Hank is making a conscious decision to maybe let Robbie take over the lead in exchange for taking less risk.
And as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, with Hank not taking the bottom hammer,
right,
because he only has 1 extra man in reserve. With Robbie with 2, he is taking the bottom hammer.
Yeah, so he's still taking the bottom hammer, and it's hard for me to compare the exact score here, but eventually, if that trend holds, then Robbie will overtake Hank in terms of potential final score. So we'll have to see eventually if Hank readjusts and decides to start taking more risk.
They're both doing very well given the amount of time and effort they've spent playing over the last several days.
It's been an exhausting 3 days, so for them to still be playing at this level is impressive. I know I'm physically just shot. Like I was having trouble sleeping last night. I was so sore in areas that are not normally sore. Like I had some issues in like the lower abdomen of all places, because the twisting motion of going back and forth on the joystick is just so much different than what I often do, like just at home on a keyboard.
And it's not just the playing, it's the sitting too.
Yeah, sitting, the posture, the ergonomics of where your wrist angle is relative to the height of the cabinet. It all comes into play after 3 long days, for sure.
But I just recently started playing a lot more on MAME, and the first couple weeks, my forearms would start getting extremely sore. And like, where's this coming from? So
yeah, well, anything you're not used to, I guess.
Yeah,
these guys I know both have their own machines, so they're somewhat used to, which muscles get worked out from this activity. But But even so, like just 3 days of it, they've got to be getting tired.
Physical and mental exhaustion.
Yeah, and the mental exhaustion now at
Absolutely.
this point with all the pressure on this game. Any little lapse in concentration can result in a disaster in this game. So it's something to watch for.
I think that's probably, to me, probably one of the most fascinating aspects of the consistent play is
That was
it
a
has
really
to be
risky decision here.
It
Robbie's in
was.
big trouble here. That's going to freeze
Yep,
if he doesn't
this-
get in the air.
yeah,
Yep,
this
that was
is-
good. He got in the air. Oh,
Oh.
still got him. Yeah.
So now, as
Yeah.
far as they both
He,
have one
he
extra
really
man in
probably
reserve.
should have taken the extra time to get that bottom rivet first. He decided he made a different decision there, and I think that was a costly decision. But again, when you're in the heat of this kind of a thing, sometimes you just don't make the same decision that you would in the comfort of your home, Now he's got another issue here.
It's the same issue that Hank had.
Yeah.
Same issue
So
that Hank had
I knew he
earlier.
was going to get there. So now the thing is, this one's coming up for sure.
That was very close.
It's actually not that bad because those three now on the left side can't come down until he goes down. So he can sort of time it here where he can just sit up here if he wants. Well, he's going for it right away to conserve bonus time, but he wants some of those guys to go up, and so now he's got a straggler.
So
The
this is-
real issue here is the left side rivet. To unplug that one is kind of the trick on this pattern. And now he's got an opportunity, so it should be easy from here. Yeah, that was well done. Pretty patient there that time.
Got to take your time and not push it sometimes.
Yeah, it's a funny paradox in high score races. In particular, this game is not necessarily played for a really high score, but oftentimes when you're trying for a high score, you want to be aggressive, but at the same time, oftentimes the correct decision is to be a little more patient. So it's a funny balance that you have to tread that line all the time between how many points am I giving away by being patient versus, if I really go after it here, I might end up dying. So
Hank also down to 1 life. Well, 2 lives. He's got 1 in reserve.
right. Now, so this is Hank's on level 14 pi at, what is it, 588 maybe, if I'm reading that
That's
right?
what it looks like, 588.
And I don't know if we can see where Robbie is again real quick, or is that, I don't know who's controlling that, but we can see that Hank is still going top hammer only, so that's why he may now be further ahead. They're making an announcement now just to put more crowd and more pressure
Even, yeah.
on the contestants.
That's what we were discussing that over in the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah.
When they come on, there's about to be a kill screen for anyone who's interested.
Yeah.
If really, man, you're gonna put that much
Yeah.
pressure. You're gonna bring.
They
all
did
these
that all
people around.
weekend, and actually they were pretty fair about it. They pretty much did it to everyone every time somebody had a good game going.
Yeah,
Like,
so-
by the time they made it about halfway through level 20, they made sure to get cameras in people's faces, and
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
6 deep in the crowd, everybody's watching, and gives some extra pressure.
Yeah.
So Dean, when you're playing, do you really notice all of that's going on around you, or are you just kind of in the zone? So, what are Hank and Robbie really noticing that there's a whole group of people that's behind them? Is that really weighing on them, or do you have the ability to block that out?
It's sort of, I think I go in and out of that, so I'll have some stretches where I'm not noticing so much, and during the week there were times when not many people were watching anyway if you were early in the game. Now as you get later and later in the game, naturally more and more people start crowding and watching, and for me I was aware of it, so the nerves started increasing. It's definitely challenging. So my biggest interest here is the strategy difference with Hank taking this top hammer. He's still continuing that approach. He seems to be just banking on hoping that Robbie does not make it to the end of the game, which is really not that safe of a bet.
Somewhat dangerous.
Yeah.
Given his play today and also his play over the last 3 days.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I'll be interested to see if at some point he goes back to a more aggressive style when he realizes that he's starting to lose ground on the score.
Yeah, given the fact they're sitting next to each other and they have just a couple of seconds in between levels.
Oh, after every single board, I can guarantee you he's looking over at Robbie's screen to see how many lives does he have left, which board is he on, is he taking the top hammer or the bottom hammer?
Which makes the strategy all the more interesting.
Yeah, so all of these things are very calculated decisions that these players are making right now.
What's interesting
This
is
another one of these problem areas here with that left side rivet is unable to get. Unable to get to that bottom hammer.
Watching them do this over and over and over, it always appears so easy.
Yeah,
after you watch someone do this, it's absolutely
really
not. At all.
Actually, this is a very good situation because he's got all the fireballs trapped now. If it were me, I would have actually stayed up there a few more seconds to see if they could climb up.
They certainly come down
now
fast.
He's got it. There we go.
Well done.
Yeah, that was well done. He doesn't need to be doing this, I can tell you that. All he needs is just to unplug that rivet. He's wanting to get the prize over there is what he's wanting, but there's two of them, so. Yeah, he wants to get that prize over there for 800 more points. And it's also a delay tactic. He wants to have Robbie catch up to his screen so he has a better idea of where Robbie is. So anything he can do, that's a legitimate tactic for point pressing. That also eats up a little time. Is another head-to-head kind of tactic that I think we just saw there. Sorry.
Oh. So at any point, do you kind of consider what's the value of the prize if I'm losing, X number of bonus points?
Yeah, for sure.
When do you start to evaluate that and kind of say, screw it, I'm going for it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he did manage to leech that fireball a little bit to conserve a little bit of the net bonus, but yeah, that could have gone the other way. He could have ended up losing points on that exchange there, but like I said, I think it was worthwhile in the sense of allowing Robbie to catch up just another half a screen while he was sort of delaying there.
So we're back to Robbie's.
Now Robbie is only on level 14 now, so I think he's several screens behind where Hank is, and I think his score is higher.
Looks like 599.
Yeah. So if both of these games continue with these strategies, Robbie, if they both make it to the end, Robbie will have the higher score.
Just crossing 600,000.
Okay. Now let's see which barrel he was on. He was on the. Okay, that was the last barrel. So this is the last screen of level 14. So 7 levels remaining after this. If you were to score around 55,000 per level for 7 more levels, I'd do some quick math, but he would be approaching a million points.
Very close.
Probably just a hair shy of a million points, but he does have that mana reserve. Oh, that's a yeah, I saw that coming. You can sort of, when you're sitting back here, you can sort of see these things coming.
Developing, right?
And when you're in the heat of it, a lot of times you just don't see it.
So Dean with Robbie down to 1 man now, and this is the final man.
It's very interesting now because Robbie has built up a little bit of a lead, so he really probably should switch to a top hammer only strategy on the barrel board to conserve some risk, because he still has some buffer now in the score. And unless Hank switches back to a more aggressive style, he could just match Hank's level of risk for the rest of the game and end up with a higher score. So really it would be prudent for him to just try and be very safe from here on out. Let's see what he does in the next barrel screen. So that was a safe choice. He probably could have made it there, but
yeah,
I think he's being super safe now, which is good.
So closes out the rivet board with a little over 618,000, looks like.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, it will be interesting to see whether he goes into safe mode and skips that bottom hammer.
This will
and
be
just jumps by
important
it.
to see what he does here on the screen. No, he's going to stay with his game plan.
I suppose that could be that he's trying to get as many points possible, given that he's on his last man now.
Yeah. I think that would probably be an error in thinking, though, because it's really just much more important to get to the end of the game, because you just can't squeeze out that many points like per screen.
Right.
It's really much more important now to not die. Now, that almost leads me to believe that maybe Robbie has not really been looking at Hank's game very much. I know I was looking all the time when I was in my matches. Maybe Robbie is just trying to zone into his own game and he's just not worried too much about what Hank's doing. It'd be interesting to hear from him afterwards and see if that's the case.
You know, this is kind of different than the normal type of game where it's just basically, you know, it's you against the machine. In a way, this has a much different strategy because it's not only you getting the better score, but you're also just trying to beat the other guy as well.
Yeah,
which is very different than, you know, past
for those of us that are used to, you know, playing basically a one-player game, it's totally different. All the thinking and the strategy is just it complicates things for the players, and I think it's made it more exciting so far for the viewers.
Certainly, this last head-to-head.
Yeah, this has been a great match.
It's been a great game, really great game for the both of them. It speaks volumes, as you mentioned earlier, about the mental, how taxing it is mentally, and the fact that they're still this sharp.
This could be it.
That's it.
So let's see if Hank is already ahead of the score. I'm not sure.
So Robbie's at 629,500.
Oh, looks like Hank's already got it.
Jimmy wins it.
Let's see. Where's Hank?
Yep.
What was Hank's final score?
Hank is done. So Hank finishes
Hank was in the 630s. It looked like already. So he's got it. Congratulations to Hank.
662,000.
So Hank champion.
Hank wins.
Nice. I'm gonna go see him.
Have a good
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Hey,
Appreciate
thank you very much for coming. It was a pleasure having you guys in the booth.
Absolutely.
I look forward to seeing you guys on another online open here soon.
I hope so.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. This is Brian Dye, alongside me with Doug Polka, Dean Saglio, and Derek Sorrells. We are closing out the 2015 ReplayFX Arcade and Gaming Festival. It has been a phenomenal year. We want to thank everyone that came out this year to support the show.